She used an unknown substance that promised a better version of herself. It made her young and beautiful again. But she soon realized, nothing comes without a cost. The story begins with a celebrated Hollywood star, Elizabeth, who is known for her long-running aerobics TV show. Until one day, her producer informs her that she is dismissed from the show because she's already 50 years old, and they need someone young and pretty, with some junk in the trunk. The news really breaks her world, and on her way home, she sees people stripping her image from the billboard. The distraction is enough for her not to see the other car. In the hospital, the doctor tells her there isn't a single serious injury, but she starts crying, overwhelmed by her crumbling career. When the doctor leaves, a young intern asks her for one more exam. He looks at her spine with his oddly blue eyes and tells her that she is a perfect candidate. That leaves her a bit confused, but just minutes later, she finds a flash drive in her pocket, with a message saying it changed his life. Once she gets home, into her luxury apartment, she plays the video from the drive. The substance promises a better version of herself, younger, more beautiful. A single injection releases her DNA, starting a new cellular division. She is the Matrix. Everything comes from her, but she will have to share. 1 week for one and 1 week for the other. A perfect balance, 7 days for each. The whole experience looks creepy, so she throws the flash drive in the trash. She quickly puts on some makeup, but then realizes she's getting old. The memories of her youth and the glamorous life she once lived only make her even angrier. Eventually, she takes the flash drive out of the trash and calls the number on the back of it. Wanting to order the substance, the voice on the phone simply gives her the address and hangs up. The next morning, she receives a small package with a card and the number 503 on it. She quickly rushes to the address, and everything leads her to a white room filled with safes. She finds the one with her number and unlocks it. Inside is her package. The package contains an activator, clearly stating it's single-use only, a stabilizer for her other self, the switch, and food for both versions of her. The instructions say she must activate only once, stabilize every single day, and switch every 7 days. Then comes the most important rule: to remember that both versions of her are one. Following the instructions, she takes the activator and injects it directly into her veins. Almost at the same moment, she collapses to the floor, and her body starts a new cellular division. Her back cracks wide open, and from it, a younger, more beautiful version of herself emerges. Once she's done admiring her new tight body, she goes back and stitches the cracked spine of her other self. Then she connects her to the food supply for the entire week. Sometime later, her head starts to hurt and her nose begins to bleed. She quickly takes the stabilizer and inserts a needle into her older version's back. She draws out a strange liquid and injects herself with it, immediately feeling better. Then she goes to a role casting for a new aerobics model, and the moment their eyes land on her, she gets the role. The producer is completely amazed by her beauty. She introduces herself as Sue and informs the producer that she has to be out of town every other week. Still mesmerized by her beauty, the producer says it won't be a problem. Honestly, she could take half my assets and I'd still offer her my liver, which she'll definitely need by the end of the movie. She immediately gets to work, and the town is already flooded with her pictures. Every day she goes to her matrix and stabilizes herself. A week flies by and she connects the switch. Minutes later, Elizabeth wakes up in horrifying pain in her back. She pulls herself together and makes a schedule, deciding which days belong to who. Then she goes back to the vault to pick up her refill kit. Elizabeth spends her days watching TV and checking every once in a while to see if it's time for the switch. The week flies by and we're back with Sue. Sue starts digging a hole in her bathroom wall. She suddenly becomes Bob the Builder and creates a hidden room, where she drags Elizabeth and leaves her there in the dark, while she goes to the studio and basically becomes a star with just a couple of shakes of her peach. Couple days later, she checks on Elizabeth and sees it's almost time for the switch, but she still chooses to go out and have some fun with her new friends. Hours later, she comes home with a handsome young guy, and just as they start getting frisky, Elizabeth's food supply comes to an end. Sue immediately starts feeling sick, and her nose begins to bleed. She rushes to the bathroom, feeling like her head is about to explode. Even though it's time for the switch, she takes the stabilizer and once more injects herself with the strange liquid from Elizabeth's back. Then she goes to stabilize the handsome guy she brought home. The next morning, after the switch, Elizabeth is greeted by a huge mess, but that's the least of her problems. One of her fingers has literally started to rot. She starts scrubbing it with water, like she's never had a rotting finger before. She quickly calls her dealer and tells him she accidentally used a few extra hours, asking how to reverse the new changes in her body. But the dealer tells her that whatever is used on one side is lost on the other, and there's no going back. She blames it on Sue, saying she was drunk, but the voice reminds her there is no she and you. They are one. Elizabeth then watches Sue's performance on TV and actually gets jealous. She once more goes to pick up her refuel kit and stops at a cafe on her way back. There, an older man tells her it must feel so long to wait 7 days. Looking at his birthmark, she realizes he's actually the young doctor from before. He tells her it's hard to remember that this version of her also deserves to exist. As she tries to walk away, the old man asks her if her younger version has already started eating away at her. Realizing that her older self also deserves to live, Elizabeth puts on makeup and a beautiful dress. But once she lays her eyes on Sue's beautiful face, she comes back and tries to put on even more makeup. On her way out, she once again looks at Sue's face, comes back, hides her turkey neck with a scarf, and adds even more makeup. The third attempt to leave the house really gets to her, making her angry and jealous. Another switch later, Sue wakes up and gets really upset at the sight of the mess left behind by Elizabeth. Once she gets to the studio, the producer tells her the ratings are going through the roof, and that they want her to host the New Year's Eve show, which will be watched by 50 million people. But he also tells her they'll have to work harder than ever until then. When it's time for another switch, Sue tells Elizabeth she can't miss this opportunity, taking yet another day from her. Sue loses her sense of time and days pass by. Even though she sees the wound has started to fester, Sue takes another day for herself. Once Elizabeth wakes up, we can see that her entire leg, along with her arm, has begun to rot. Her hair has started to gray, and she complains to the dealer, saying that Sue is stealing her time completely, without considering the consequences. He offers her a way out. She can end the experience and go back to just being herself, but the changes to her body are irreversible. She takes one last look at her deformed leg and declines the offer. Later that night, she watches Sue's interview while cooking dinner. She is visibly jealous, commenting on how Sue is living her dream, screaming and insulting her. She even starts throwing eggs at Sue's face on the TV and covers her windows with newspapers, so she won't see Sue on the billboard anymore. Another switch later, Sue is visibly disturbed by the mess. She simply moves everything into a hidden room next to Elizabeth, sticks a needle into her back, and begins drawing the liquid, more and more, filling several jars with it. 3 months later, Sue hasn't switched once. She's just been enjoying her life, completely forgetting Elizabeth. She runs out of the stabilizing fluid and goes to take some more, but this time, the liquid is completely black. Once again, she feels like her head is about to explode. She quickly calls the dealer and tells him there's no more fluid. He informs her that she needs to switch and let the fluid regenerate. She freaks out because tomorrow she's supposed to host New Year's Eve. Then she collapses to the floor, crawling and barely managing to reach the bathroom, where she quickly switches. Her boyfriend hears the noise and goes to check it out, but Elizabeth quickly shuts the door before he sees her. When she looks at herself in the mirror, she's stunned by the monster she's made of herself. She gets angry and starts screaming at Sue's boyfriend with her monstrous voice, and the guy just runs away. Must have been true love. She storms out and calls her dealer, screaming that she wants to stop. The next day, she dresses up to look like a normal granny and rushes to the vault to pick up her final kit. She gets back home and drags Sue into the living room, takes the termination kit, and just before she sticks it into Sue's heart, she hears the dealer's voice, asking if she's sure, reminding her that once she stops, she'll remain on her own. Still, she stabs Sue and begins injecting her with the terminating fluid. But just before it all goes in, she changes her mind. Realizing that Sue is about to die, Elizabeth quickly injects another needle into her heart and starts extracting blood. But then Sue wakes up, and they stare at each other in disbelief. For the first time, both are awake at the same moment. Sue sees the termination needle and realizes what Elizabeth tried to do. She gets furious and starts beating her, trying to choke her. Elizabeth fights back, runs away, and locks herself in the bathroom, but Sue starts hitting the door until she breaks in. She grabs Elizabeth's head and violently smashes it into the mirror until she falls. Elizabeth is still not dead. She crawls and tries to escape, but Sue catches up, kicks her onto the coffee table, and keeps kicking her until she finally dies. Just then, it comes to Sue's mind that without Elizabeth, there is no stabilizing fluid. She goes to the studio to prepare for New Year's Eve, but starts hearing buzzing in her ears and feels incredibly sick. She rushes to the bathroom, where one of her teeth falls out. Actually, not just one, her entire set of teeth starts coming out. She quickly tries to run home, but in the elevator, not only her nails are falling out, her ears are too. Once she gets home, she takes another dose of the activator, begging for a better version of herself. Once again, her body starts a new cellular division, and what emerges is truly shocking. She has literally turned herself into a monster. Elizabeth's face appears on her back, along with extra arms. Now we all know, you should never give up on your dreams. She puts on her beautiful dress and fixes her hair. Then she sticks Elizabeth's photo on her face and even applies makeup to it. She goes back to the studio and steps onto the stage, right in the spotlight. The crowd suddenly goes silent as her mask falls off. Panic erupts. Everyone yells that she is a monster. One of them gets on stage and blows her head off, but another head grows right back. She starts falling apart, squirting blood all over the audience. As she escapes, her body literally falls apart into pieces. To make it even more unsettling, she is not dead. The little remaining part crawls to her Hollywood Walk of Fame star, where she literally melts away and is cleaned up the next morning. And that's where the film ends. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video. Thanks for watching.